The success part of succession, I think, is bringing in the team and the resources or rolling into the team or resources.
What if I could have more time with my kids? What if I could stop building this for the future, but I could build it for right now?
The reason we use the word seeing is because you need to go see what's out there.
You realized you were not prioritizing your time the way you really wanted to. It was probably not the part of the business that was giving you a lot of energy.
How about we live our legacy and we're not waiting to leave it?
Welcome to the Total Succession Show. I'm your host, Tyson Ray, joined by Kim Cochenour. We're glad you're here. Today's conversation just might be the nudge you need to start preparing for what's next.
So today we have Scott Danner on with us, and I'm so excited to have Scott on. He is a special friend, has been very successful in his own right, cares about advisors, cares about clients, but he also is one of these wonderful people in my life that just speaks brutal, honest truth. And like yesterday, we had some time together at a conference, and he just came up to me and said to me, "Tyson, do you know you're intense?" And I'm like, "What? Like pot kettle? Like what? I'm not intense. You're intense." And so I'm excited to bring his intensity on so we can try and glean some of the wisdom that he has with regards to how we can help advisors make these transitions and these succession decisions that they're making.
Thanks for having me, Tyson.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. You've actually exited in your business to make a bigger impact. And I think everyone's really going to love hearing from you. So you've been in the business for a long time. You've known Tyson for a long time. You built Freedom Street and later merged with Steward Partners. So take us back about a year or two before the Steward Partners merger. Where was your head at? What were you seeing? What were you thinking in terms of what might happen next for you in your business?
Great question. First of all, I also like to add for the record that intensity recognizes intensity. And what Tyson just explained was how he heard it in his head, but how it actually came out was, "I love your intensity. And I also am intense like that." So, but Tyson heard it like, "I'm intense."
Yeah.
And so that's the beautiful part of how we hear things versus how they're said. But there's a great admiration and love for what you guys are
Mhm.
doing and how you do it. So thank you so much. To your
Correct.
question, Kim, which is a great question, 1 year before, 1 to 2 years before, if I'm thinking we are scaling, we are rocking and rolling. The business is moving fast. We are heading towards probably a little over right at 3 billion ish in AUM. We have 40 offices in 7 states. We're recruiting and developing M&A opportunities. We were doing one deal a year, and it was kind of transitioning to where we were getting in front of more deals than we could even say yes to. And I was starting to see the limitations of the business model that I was building in. And I think that's where I was up against a wall a bit. The 20 plus performance reviews I was doing in December the year before this means that I wasn't with my family at a time that I like to be with my family more often. But because I love my staff and I want to be engaged and involved in everyone, my COO, Valerie, and I were literally, having one-on-one hour-and-a-half conversations with every employee. And those things, the way we lead, took a lot of time and there's a lot of energy. And so we started to see maybe we'd be better off with strategic partnership. Maybe we would be better off if we offloaded the HR, if we offloaded some of the extra compliance duties, if we were able to maximize our investment management strategies with an entire team versus just the small team we were utilizing. And so a year before, Kim, it was when I started to really evaluate it. 6 months before, I started to interview every CEO that I could think of and just really pick their brains and understand where they were going, where they saw the industry going, sort of like the conversations you have on this show. It's really just identifying trends and then seeing how that impacted my clients, our advisors, and everybody that we served. And then last, of course, my family and the people that matter most to me in this world.
Yeah. So it seemed like the tipping point for you and senior leadership at your company was just you realized you were not prioritizing your time the way you really wanted to. It was probably not the part of the business that was giving you a lot of energy. You're probably pretty depleted. Was there anything else in there that you really wanted to make sure that pushed you over that edge?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's two things. It's number one, what you just said. I started Freedom Street Partners in 2016 and grew it from 0 to 3.5 billion and 25 million in revenue in a 7-year timeline. I'm a rocket grower. Like my goal is to grow. When something's slowing me down, it makes me very frustrated and it becomes amplified because I just want to break it and fix it, right? So the problems were becoming bigger than just breaking it and fixing it in short amount of times. It was a resources issue. The second thing was what made us great in our company is everybody worked towards their unique ability. So if Tyson was great at this, Tyson did that. If Scott was great at this, then I was doing that one thing. And if we start to do all those other things that aren't what we're great at, then now we're taking away our superpower. And that was happening a little more often than I wanted it. So you couple those things with the sentimental 45-year-old, 44, 45-year-old at the time, where my oldest son was a senior in high school. It was his last year playing soccer. He's looking at colleges to go play at. My youngest son had recently moved away and was playing soccer for an academy. And I was just really struggling with that transition of where I wanted to be in the rest of my life. And so when you couple those things together, I really just took my intense love of doing what I love doing and what I'm great at, my you know, understanding of what needed to break and rebuild, and then my family attributes, which were shaping the direction I wanted to go in for the next chapter of my career. And it was the necessary opportunity in front of me.
So I want to interject real quick because I'm empathetic to the advisor that's maybe listening to this. It's like, well, I'm not $3 billion, so maybe I'm not there yet. But I'm, they have $100 million. They maybe have $1 million practice. They have an assistant or two, and maybe they tuned out the billion number, but hopefully heard all of the realities that these advisors are having when they reach the ceiling of complexity, where it becomes, as strategic coach would talk about, a who not how. At what point do you need to start bringing in resources as a people, resources as technology, that it's outside of your skill set, outside of your expertise, and realize that part of a succession is also as part of breaking through. It doesn't even necessarily mean you need to sell your practice. It doesn't mean you need to change what you're doing about what you love. But the success part of succession, I think, is bringing in the team and the resources, or rolling into the team or resources. And you've had a lot of experience talking to that advisor that as part of the Freedom Street of bringing other advisors in and bringing those resources. So try and talk to them for a second. Try and
Sure.
talk to the individual that's thinking, wait a second, I'm not that size yet, but how do I get there, or how do I benefit from maybe thinking differently outside of my bubble?
Well, I was that advisor. So I was doing just under $1 million of production. I was running an 8,000 person festival in my town. I had $100 million under management. I had done what Edward Jones calls several good nights. And that's where you like take the 5, 10, $15 million off the bottom end of your book. I had done that a multitude of times. So I was constantly like trimming to get bigger, but I was outgrowing the supply line. When I started Freedom Street Partners, the first attribute that I was aiming to gain was that bandwidth, Tyson. So just to be able to go from that million to $2 million space, just to be able to do more with marketing and branding. Like I'm a marketing and branding guy. I am a video and radio and podcast, and I couldn't do any of that stuff, and I was being held back. So the minute I was freed to do those things, my business, my practice skyrocketed. So then I saw the opportunity. We shaped the company in and around M&A because the average age of an advisor was 62. And data shows that this entire industry is essentially turning over in the next 10 to 15 years. There is the 60 plus year old will not be doing this in 10 to 15 years on average. So who's going to be taking over the assets? Because we have a couple 100,000 less advisors in the industry than we did 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So how is that possible? And so we built around the processes to be able to provide advisors time and or financial freedom, and if we could do both, we could really change the entire scope. And so, Tyson, to talk to that advisor, I was that advisor. I absolutely knew I was a top producer and could easily get to $5 to $7 million a year in revenue pretty quickly. And I was running teams and building teams. So you can't have succession without next gen advisors. You can't build next gen advisors without systems and processes to replicate and to repeat. And so all of that was where I was putting our bandwidth and our time and our energy.
Well, and Scott, that speaks to what you were able to give up and get rid of and actually give you a whole new sense of freedom. And so since you've now sold your business or merged it into Steward Partners, clearly that wasn't the exit, or the exit wasn't the end for you. How is that? How have you adjusted to that transition, not being in the driver's seat of 100% of the decisions? And how do you think your clients have adjusted to that change?
Yeah, Kim, great question. Here's the there I'm going to bifurcate this question into two parts. Number one is I when I went to decide to sell the company, I'm using air quotes for those just
Yeah.
listening. Um, it was one where I was going to do like 20%. I was going to do a minority stake. That's all I was interested in selling. Then I went to market and learned so much on the open market, saw the opportunities and changed my mind to be willing to do 100%. Then I started to evaluate who I could partner with where I wouldn't lose my soul, my clients my clients' ability to be served the way that I always served them, and even the brand to some extent that I had built throughout the country at that point in time. So, going to Steward Partners, you never know if what the decision you chose is going to be the right decision. But I'm 18 months in, and here's what I can tell you: my clients didn't notice a difference. In fact, they noticed a significant benefit because I got rid of all the other stuff that was weighing my advisors down, HR and compliance, and all of the backbone that Freedom Street had in existence. Now we offloaded to experts in spaces that gave us more freedom. That's one thing. The second thing is that I'm running my practice the very same way I was running it before. I'm doing nothing different. Nobody's making decisions over top of me telling me that I can't do something. In fact, what's really great about Steward and our M&A platform is we believe that you know how to run your practice. We believe that what's got you here is not what we want to blow up and then break into what we think is the best resource. That's the coolest part of what happened to me, Kim, is that Val and I came over to Steward Partners, my COO. We sat down with Jim Gold and High Supporta, and we said, here's the platform we built for M&A. And they said, we want you to replicate that here at Steward, and all the great things that you just brought over, we want to replicate across the country. So not only was I able to preserve my practice and all of my advisors continuously keep their business in the platform that it was on before, with the Raymond James relationship that it had before, with the connectivity, but we've now built an M&A platform that is one of the fastest growing platforms in the industry. We are attracting more people because we're allowing them to maintain their level of independent service to their clients while also being an at Steward Partners company. So, it's Freedom Street at Steward Partners. That did not defeat my clients. It did not defeat my advisors. In fact, it empowered them. So now all the back office, all the resources are significantly greater. And we're now running the M&A as well, which is taking off and attracting really high producers. When we started in the business and I was at Edward Jones all those years ago, the things that I wanted to escape were like the systems and the processes and all the dialed in things, the HR and like all those stuff, right? Then you build a practice that's doing over 10 million and then 20 million. And you're like, you know what I need? I need the very resources that I hated before. Okay. And so because I can't do what I'm great at anymore. And so everybody kind of goes to this. What we're finding is Steward is a company that was built on these wirehouse breakaways who needed a ton of the things they were used to having, the back office, the support, the office location, the rent, like all that stuff's covered, right? But in doing so, Steward built a foundation that was so cool because now we're attracting our average conversation is with a $4 to $8 million RIA producer today. That's on the M&A side. That's who's interested. We have two $10 million teams that are joining us in the next couple of months. Like, this is the kind of thing, and that they're talking about, and what they're saying is, you know what I love is the infrastructure. It's the very thing I'm lacking. I've outgrown my strategic benefit of growth, and now I need to separate and create some support systems. So it's really interesting because it's just different than what most people think.
So if you're hearing this, I want to share my side of that in the sense that one of the first step that we talk about in this total succession is seeing. It's seeing you have a need for succession. What does that look like? Internal, external. There's seeing what are you going to do beyond the stuff you don't like doing now, or even what is it going to be in retirement. And it's the reason we use the word seeing is because you need to go see what's out there, because it's not what you think, and it's definitely not what you've experienced. And I only know that because I firsthand went through the whole steward due diligence a year ago and realized, oh my gosh, this is what's out there. And it wasn't right for me now at this moment in time. There's some things I still want to do before I want to make that switch. But it's very different from some of the other aggregators that are out there to basically start seeing what's in the industry and realizing that it's not selling it to your buddy next door who's going to have the same problem you have. It may not be selling it to the junior advisor that may not be committed or may not want to be comfortable with the debt or the options there, or the sister, brother, cousin, family member succession. This hybrid that kind of exists is definitely something to be looking at as an option when you're exploring what both your company's worth and what immediate resources you can have, because they basically built the proverbial better mousetrap for you to then go be the advisor and end your career in ways that you want to end your career without having to sell the whole thing and walk away.
About living a legacy versus leaving one. At the end of the day, what Tyson just said is what we believe in wholeheartedly. How about we live our legacy and we're not waiting to leave it? Too many times advisors in our industry grow a business 20, 30, 40 years and sit on that value, waiting that one day maybe they'll sell it. And guess what? It's like waiting for the perfect prince or princess to kiss you and come out of the dream. And all of a sudden you're in this a fairy tale ending. Very rarely does that exist. What exists is finding the right partners, growing together, building together. And when you look back on your life, you lived a legacy. You didn't leave one. You're automatically going to leave one because you lived it your whole life. I love everything Tyson just said because it's so true.
Well, and Scott, what we're kind of seeing is, and we're hearing from other experts in the industry, is that it's not just the 60, 70-year-old advisor looking to make the transition. It's someone in, say, your age demographic who's looking to do that too, but they're kind of just procrastinating to just get it done. Where I'm sure you deal with this a lot in the M&A space. How do you kind of give that advisor that encouragement or light a fire under their, to get it done?
Yeah, what a great point, Kim. The funniest thing is, and probably my most surprising attribute, when I started building um, Freedom Street's M&A platform, it was all focused on retiring advisors. Okay. And once advisors get to a certain age in this business, like, they just don't want to leave. I mean, they start having grandchildren. They're like coming into the office and halfway working. And like, some are really doing it and dialing it up as they get older. But most of them, their succession plan is attrition. It's like, okay, I'm going to be in the office a little less, and then I'm just going to watch my business. Maybe it'll die a little bit, but I'm still making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I golf every day or whatever that is, right? So I kind of had this vision that that's what it was going to be. Well, what's interesting is, since I made the move and all the media attention that comes with that, and all the dynamics, I'm seeing 45 to 60-year-olds is the number one group that are reaching out to us. And so they're actually trying to live their legacy. They've been doing this 20 plus years. They're kind of tired of doing it the same way. And they're saying, you know what? What if I could have more time with my kids? What if I could stop building this for the future, but I could build it for right now and pivot so that my future is only the stuff I love doing. I love referencing Arthur Brooks's book From Strength to Strength because it's a phenomenal read. And it talks about how in life we have to make that transition from doing to kind of teaching and sharing our wisdom at a certain point in time. And if you're not doing that, you find yourself doing, and you're burnt out all the time. And you're in this mousetrap you don't love. So we're seeing a trend. I'm getting 7 to 10 new leads a week on average, attracting. We are not recruiting. I'm a horrible recruiter. I don't have any patience to wait for you to make your decision because I'm not going to coddle you for 11 years. Like, I don't care. When you want, I care about what you want now. We're problem solving. So if you and your son are in this industry, and you don't know how you're going to sell your business to your son because he can't afford it and you can't afford to sell it to him, I know a way to do that. We can help you monetize it today. Your son can service it. You can hand over assets. He can earn the next chapter. You can grow it with strategic partnership, and you both can build something new today. Oh, by the way, he doesn't have to come in the business. What if you want to do real estate and you take some of your net worth you just created and you go build a different business with your son while you still do what you're great at, and you're not making your son or daughter get into the very business you are because it's all you know. Like, these are problems we're solving for the 45 to 60-year-olds. So they're not waiting until their kids are 35, 40 years old, and now they want to do something with their children. Like, that's a really cool thing. Now, after 60, there's still a lot of people after 60 that are interested in this, and they're prepared and they're ready. And 60 is young, by the way, especially in our industry, it's young. But 60-year-olds do start to be less and less interested because they just are like, I'm just going to glide this thing out. I don't need to change anything.
So we put together this acronym and I already referenced part of it, which is called SPACE, which is seeing what's out there, what you want to do with yourself. It's almost like the advisor needing to do the plan, right? Because the plumber's pipes leak. The financial advisors sometimes don't have their plan in place. They're too focused on everybody else's. It's then preparing, right? What that decision is going to be. It's acting on that decision. It's committing once you're on the other side of it, and it's exiting. So if we could talk for a second about what does preparing look like? So you've kind of decided, and I want to kind of focus on what the industry is kind of calling the aggregator space. Where here I'm going to kind of roll up to a Steward Partners like firm that's going to basically give me that whole back office. How does someone start preparing themselves to basically execute that decision? What are those kind of steps that you would tell them that they need to go through?
That's a great question. I think it's really interesting because in 2016, I started Freedom Street Partners. In 2018, I joined a group called Genius Network. And my first group, which Dan Sullivan and all of those guys are all in it. Ben Hardy, who wrote Who Not How with Dan, they're all in Genius. It's a great group of people. And my first meeting, I sat in a room, and the first thing that I listened to was a panelist of people that sold their business for hundreds of millions of dollars or more, and what they were doing to prepare, Tyson. And they made a comment that we should always be ready to sell. And I wrote notes down that day and I said, I do not have a business that's ready to sell. Now I'm 2 years in, but what do I need to do to best prepare my business to be either a strategic partner and merge with someone, or potentially even to sell? And you want to be ready to sell at all times, because if an emergency happens or something happens in your family, or there's just life happens. And I thought, I'm going to build this business to sell at all times. I hired consultants. I became a prophet in my business, not the God. So what does that mean? That means that if you're the only one that can answer questions, and I know your team, Tyson, I know you, Kim, I know that you guys have been building this profit level business for a long time. It's it's scalable, it's repeatable, it's based on systems and processes. That's what makes your company more valuable. So how are you doing right now in that space? And that's the kind of thing that I started to evaluate in my own practice to prepare. Then I hired the legal team to actually organize the documents. Were all my documents dialed in? Were all my succession plans dialed in? Did I have all the contracts right from my first buy to my last one? Guess what? There were lots of mistakes I made. So I cleaned it all up. And by doing all that, by the time I went to market, I was dialed in. We were a hot commodity. Like, we had 38 IOIs like on day one. People were ready to buy us. And I think that was a very, very valuable thing. But it all came from preparation. It was preparing your team, preparing your business, preparing your clients, and making sure that everybody is working towards a common goal of increasing value, increasing the service model and the deliverables, and always looking to be better every day.
Yep, I thought I was awesome until I started going, wow, if I was gonna make this transition when I was looking at Stewart and others a year ago, it's like, wait, my legal documents aren't right. I don't have certain partners set up that they get to be tax efficient, benefiting from things.
Right.
That's a great point of always be ready to sell.
Yeah, Ted Motherall Ted Motherall was my attorney, and Ted and I went to EWAS, Brian Sweet's event. It's a great event, and Brian does a great job, and Brittany. The two of them, in fact, Kim was there, and we saw each other at our table. But Ted and I got to we had this idea to do a presentation together where we talked about the legal side from both equations. You know, as the seller and the buyer, because I do both of those, but also what are some of the things we did to prepare. And sometimes it's just visionary planning, Tyson. Like, you're thinking, where did you see yourself going? Where are you actually heading? And you've got to reassess the goal. Like if you hit all your goals and you haven't reassessed your goals, that's a problem. You're comfortable. If you're too comfortable, you're dying, you're not growing. So that means we have to figure out that path. And I was constantly doing that.
Well, I think the mistake that advisors make is that our paradigm is how we grew, not what we're trying to grow going forward. And those are two totally different things.
Yeah, it's a great point. I still have people that'll be like, I'm going to go grow my business. And I knocked on doors. So I think I'm going to go knock on doors. I'm like, dude, that is not what you do. It's also really funny to me because when people sell their business, they're so uncomfortable. They're so nervous because it's like they're losing everything in their brains. They're losing control. You know what I always remind people of is you don't lose anything that you've built to this point in life. You are right where you're supposed to be, and everything you learn to this point, you should be applying it for the forward progression of growth. So yes, I knocked on doors and cold call when I started my business. Do I do that today? I do not. I don't take a gun, shoot it up in the air, and hope I hit a duck. Like that's ridiculous. Now, it worked great for me, and I have great clients that are still my clients today because of it. But today, I have other ways that I build a business from things I've learned. So when you sell or you merge or you do any type of future planning, you're not losing what you've built. And you should never be going backwards. You should be glancing backwards and evaluating how to use those examples, failures, successes to move forward into the future. That's the power of where we are right now.
Yeah, I think in the progression, the preparing part is kind of making the punch list of the tasks and all the things you need to tackle, which can kind of in and of itself be overwhelming. Or because the next step is you have to act, and it's both the act of meeting with the attorneys and talking to the team and talking to the clients, but it's also the act of finalizing who that partner is going to be or what that succession plan is going to be, and then acting on it. And you have probably seen a lot in your career, advisors get right to the line and almost freeze. And so what is that? And talk a little bit about what you've seen that helped them get over that line with enthusiasm versus the one that's a deer in headlights and maybe just backs away at the last minute because they can't act and make that final move to move on to that implementing that succession.
That is such a great question. A lot of times when you have big changes or challenges or transitions in your life, it has you look at yourself in the mirror in a different way than you've ever seen yourself. And a lot of times it's like standing in the mirror naked and you're seeing it all there. Like it's just all there and you're fully exposed. Your fears, your scarcity mindset. If you're at the line and you're not moving forward, you have fully embraced the scarcity mindset. You have identified that this is not going to be abundant moving forward and you're petrified and you're not believing in yourself. What got you here, you're now backing away from a lot of times. And it's a natural feeling. The second thing I find is impact. So if your impact is just in your practice or your business, man, that's empty. It's really empty. Like if the only thing you know is going to work every day and leaving at the crack of dawn and then coming home super late and telling everyone how busy you are, and then every event you've ever sponsored is just through your company name, and there's nothing else outside of your day job. We got to build impact beyond that. And a lot of times people recognize at that moment that their business is all they've got. And so now it is their child. But much like a child in your house, and you have kids my kids' ages so we can understand and relate to this. My job as a parent is not to build them so I can stuff them down, hold them back, and never ever release them. My job as a parent is to prepare them to actually go out into the world and succeed on their own with the tools and resources I have taught them to this point, and they have learned with my guidance. And so when parents kind of smother their kids, they ruin them. Businesses are no different. A business has to be let free. It has to grow. It has to grow past you sometimes. And if you just constantly try to hold it back and down, that's our own insecurities, keeping it in the space that we're not willing to go into. And I think it's natural, but here's what I would say. Sometimes when you get to the action space, it's really just trusting in yourself, trusting in something bigger than yourself. I will tell you personally, I'm a faithful man. There were many days I was on my knees as we approached the end of this deal, and I was praying that I was making the right decision for all the people I serve, for all my clients, and I surrendered. And that is a very important part. My faith in something bigger than myself gave me the power to make that decision and trust that I was doing the right thing. 18 months later, not a single doubt exists in my mind. Not one. Not one. In fact, I'm only further behind it to the point where I'm talking about it and teaching it and building our company. We've gone from 30 billion in AUM to 41 billion in AUM in a year through our growth trajectory at Steward Partners. And I'm so proud of the leadership and the team and the people that I've connected with. And my preconceived notion of what it would be like was all wrong. So trusting in something bigger than ourselves, you know, getting rid of that scarcity mindset, remembering that what got us here will not get us there, but also that we're right where we're supposed to be, taking the next step. You're going to learn more than you ever learned in your career. And think of the ways you can use that growth and learning. Think of the clients you can help that are selling their businesses. Like to have done it is a completely different dynamic.
Well, and and we see this as advisors working with clients that go into their own retirement. Like, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And you have to almost get on the other side to be able to have the space and the freedom to be able to find that impact and try different things. But you're getting to go into that space with all this knowledge and expertise that you brought in that you're bringing with you, right? So we get on the other side. We've made this decision. We've implemented now this succession, and I use this word commit. It's a special word to me. And my son built an app, and he called the app Commit, and it was a task app, and it was designed. He came up with an app when he was like 14, 15, 16 to basically allow us to all understand what tasks had to get done that none of us wanted to do, but someone needed to do them, and we needed to know that it got done. Like, did you let the dogs out? Right? Did you empty the dishwasher? And on the other side of this transaction, there are things advisors need, especially the business owners, need to realize. You gotta commit to some things when it's no longer yours, right? And part of it is committing to that these other things you're committing to bring some of this freedom. So how do you see what are some of the struggles, or what are some of the things that people need to realize? You kind of got to commit to some of this, whether it's an earnout or for a period of time or transitioning relationships. What does that commitment period kind of look like before they actually officially get to exit, whether that's exiting to just servicing clients or whether that's exiting and going into complete retirement? There's a phase of committing to things. What is that?
Well, I love the word commit because what relationship is good without full commitment, right? And what you're doing is, I think people look. This is a great question because I talk about this all the time. There is a difference between how our industry views M&A, which for the most part is a transaction. I view it as a relationship. In a relationship, commitment's the most important thing. If I'm committing to you, I'm committing to you that we are partners. That means that there's give and take, not take and take. And I think one of the biggest challenges, and this isn't just internal, this is external. I've done so many of these keynotes and panels, and I get to talk to advisors that have sold their practice, and they come to me and they start telling me all the negatives that they don't see, and this is happening, and this is what they do now. And I'm like, dude, you picked them. Like, this was your culture fit. This is who you chose. So it's like getting married and then every morning waking up and telling your wife all the things you hate about her. Like, what is the point in that? You committed to this person because you love them, you believe in them, they committed to you. They did everything that they said they were going to do. And now you're mad at them because you are empty and you didn't expect to feel empty. Dude, grow up. This is a business, right? So I would say, Tyson, the first thing is remember that commitment goes both ways and it's about giving of yourself. When I got to Steward, the first thing I did, January, we sold December 18th. The first week in January, Val and I flew to New York and had a meeting with Jim and Hyde. And we said, here's what we want to do for Steward Partners. This is how we see building this M&A division out. They said, we like where your head's at. Why don't you start giving us some ideas? I presented a presentation, and a year later, so this time last year, we had not a single lead, no M&A business, nothing. In a year, we now have, tens of millions of dollars of signed LOIs, a trajectory that's extensively growing. And what I did was I committed to work harder here than I was working before. And now let me tell you why I did that. Because A, I signed a contract to come over here with all of the advisors that were on my shoulders with me side by side. What I can control, what I can control is my own work ethic and what I give to this company. And if I grow the equity that Steward Partners that's a unique thing that everyone's an equity shareholder. If I grow that equity at a rapid rate, all the old partners are super excited and all the new ones are going to see great fruits come from that growth. And that's what we're doing. Val and I put our head down with Jim and High and we're building something special. And we have been giving, giving, giving. And yes, there's a couple of changes along the way, and there's some unique things. I mean, my clients see a statement that says Steward Partners. It's still Raymond James, but it says Freedom Street at Steward Partners. There is a unique difference. It's not a big one, but I mean, the people that get all bent out of shape are the ones that are like, I didn't know there was going to be a single change on the statement. And you're like, well, dude, you work with a new company now. Like, hey, there's some things that are going to change. And we're not one of those companies that's like blowing you up and then breaking you up into 10 pieces and making you look like everybody else.
Yeah.
So I say that because, to your point, commitment is the most crucial thing in a relationship. Not really important in a transaction. Transactions are just getting through the deal and then walking away and you going, how much can I take? My biggest disappointment in M&A is how some of the older advisors that you come in contact with who have loved their clients their whole lives and they tell you how important it is, the money seems to be like the only thing they care about. And they're willing to just sacrifice all these years of integrity to just take as much as they can possibly take. It's like walking into the snack room and just taking and stealing all the good snacks and leaving nothing for anyone else. And I don't go into deals like that. I go into deals with relationships. That's the kind of people we're bringing in. That's the kind of culture we're building. And that's the kind of culture I want to see in the future of this business. I don't want to see transactions. Take your transactions other places. Take your high dollar amount and whatever else is important to you and maximize your money. Fine. I'm going to maximize culture, life, experiences, and actually love doing what we do.
Yeah. So the title of the book that we're working on is that it's the financial advisor's ability to fully retire, fully compensated, but keeping their clients' interest first. And I think I'm writing this because there is a lot of aggregators that it's all about the transaction, and in the end, that those clients aren't necessarily getting. Effectively, we're selling their money to another firm, and they're not getting the same relationship, culture, life experience that was how they what they entrusted this advisor that basically sold them. So going back to the commitment, I think what I heard in that, or if I'm listening to this and wanting to kind of glean something out of it, is if you're not going to be able, or if you're thinking and you're listening to this and it's like, I'm just going to have a hard time committing to other things or other brands or other or other ways of doing things or rules or compliance or the culture, or I don't want to commit to another relationship, and that's okay. realizing that, okay, your succession plan may not have a very long runway or earnout before you get to the exit. But realize that all of us are going to have to go through a period of commitment to transition the relationship with the clients, to do some of the paperwork that may be necessary, making that transition, and in doing so, be open to the fact that you are going to commit to a new email, possibly, or a new brand, or a new training system, or new technology. That is all part of the process of leaving well these people that you care about, which are your family and friends, which are these clients for decades, in capable hands with other resources, uh, and it can be a good thing if commitments can be a good thing if it's also to the exit, right? Yeah, I got to go through this commitment. It's like you had to go through dating to get that marriage done. Well, you may have to date this new partner or this new firm to get to the ultimate exit if that's your goal.
Yeah, we bought a business in Charlotte, North Carolina, an older advisor. Um, to this day, when he goes into the grocery store and he runs into one of his clients, they tell him how grateful they are because their experience has been so great. When he goes golfing at Quail Hollow with the lead advisor that I put in connection with all those clients, and they're still buddies today, and they're golfing at this great golf course. He's referring other advisors to our platform because he believes in it so wholeheartedly. The reality is, you're exactly right. Our goal is to leave everybody better off than they came in. And for me, all of my advisors were better off in the deal that I made. They're all equity shareholders. They were not all equity shareholders at Freedom Street. They're all equity shareholders now. They all have the ability to grow something, and I don't have to keep putting the small business stress on them that I was going to do. The bigger you became, the more you had to have 8 hats on. And, when you're growing as rapidly as we were, that's something else to think about. And the clients are winning more because they're getting more time and more service. So the clients are better off. And I think when you put those 3 things together, that's the beauty of a relationship. That's the beauty of the commitment. And it really is it's a nice dance when it's done and executed properly.
So as we kind of wrap this up a little bit, I'm thinking about, one, love having you on. I love your energy, and I want people to hear. I want you to hear. He is now in a space on this other side of this succession, and how Scott has laid this out, where it's joy and it's energy and it's enthusiasm. And yet we're talking to some people, and I've talked to some advisors that the succession didn't go well. They didn't do some of these steps, and now they're in a space of regret, or effectively lost the business because it didn't have the culture, or they took more money and they didn't see what was possible, so they had the default scenario. The whole purpose of these podcasts is basically, can we share information? Can we make a difference in each other's lives so we make informed decisions that we don't regret in the future?
I think, Tyson, to that point, I think it's natural that people feel loss. I think that's first of all, there's a natural response when you sell your business that you're going to feel a little bit lost, and I can tell you that I felt the same thing. So if I didn't tell you I didn't feel a little bit of loss when I went through that, I was building something really great. No different than when I dropped my son off at college and I felt like I lost a piece of me, and what we were building together as a family is now different. But mindset is the next shift. And what I find with people that regret, have loss, maybe they made a bad deal. And yes, that does happen sometimes. Most of the time, what I find is it's their mindset. They're takers and they are not willing to give of themselves like they were to their business before. But they sold their business to a new company who is now supporting them, and maybe they're not willing to be all that they could be for that new relationship. So I think a lot of it's mindset. I think if you shift your mindset and you say, what are the things that I can control? You can grow at an even faster rate because you're growing side by side with the right culture fit. There's a reason you chose it. It's sort of like marriage again. Like most people that get divorced, when you talk to them, there are the occasional, like very, very awful divorces and abusive situations and really awful things. But a lot of people you talk to are like, yeah, I was just young and selfish, or I was making bad decisions, or my spouse and I just weren't seeing eye to eye. We grew apart. You know, the reality is, if we both put in the work and the effort, the relationship can continue to grow, pivot, and we move forward together. Even if you culturally feel like it might not have been the perfect fit, you made that commitment. So now it's time to maximize it. So what can you control, and how can you move forward in that? And if you made a bad deal, that's fine. You could do something else. I mean, the other side to this is, I'm always shocked. Advisors, you are not pigeon. You are amazing at helping people. You have solved some of the biggest challenges in people's lives. You're not just pigeonholed to one career and one type of this career. There are so many other options that exist in this industry. I just think being open-minded, optimistic, and focusing on what I can control, I found this to be joyful, exciting. I have even more intensities to bring it full circle. Tyson, I mean, I am intense, just like you. But you know what that intensity is? It's passion. It's believing in what you're doing, believing in the people you're serving, and helping people solve problems that they're finding very challenging, that we're finding simple answers to.
Well, and Scott, you bring a great energy to such a dynamic environment that we're all in right now in the succession space and the transition space and the acquisition space, and even talking about Gen 2. Like, there's great wisdom in this for our listeners. And so we're so glad that you were here today, and look forward to having you on again someday if you'll join us.
I will join you anytime you want. I love Tyson. I love you and what you do. I love watching your business blossom into what it is, and I'm just happy to be along for the ride with friends like you guys. And so continued success I wish to the podcast as well.
Great having you on. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
I've wrestled with these things myself, and that's exactly why I created something to help you do it with less stress and more direction. My book, Total Succession, simplifies the process by breaking it down into 5 clear steps to help you exit on your terms, with confidence, full compensation, and your client's best interests at heart. You can also head to TotalSuccession.com for 1, a free guide that you can use as a starter to work through the See, Prepare, Act, Commit, Exit framework, and 2, for another freebie, my Advisor to Advisor Retirement Readiness Assessment. Remember, you only exit your business once. Create the space to make it happen. Thank you for listening. Until next time.